Hey, my handsome ladies and gentlemen, this is Shmeaty. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. We're going to be in the Retro Cup today, and in the Retro Cup, there are no Steel, Dark, or Fairy type Pokemon. No types added after Generation 1 are allowed in this cup, meaning that Psychic and Dragon type Pokemon rise to extreme prominence because those types that were added were actually largely added, some fun Pokemon trivia for you, to rein in Psychic and Dragon type Pokemon. Nevertheless, one of the Pokemon that has rose to massive prominence in this cup is Oranguru, now having access to 35 energy Brutal Swing and 45 energy Trailblaze, and that Pokemon is an absolute menace, so we're going to be running a very fun Pokemon to counter it, and that is our Sucker Punch Kecleon. Kecleon is one of the Pokemon that has Sucker Punch, and nobody talked about it for very good reason. Nevertheless, if you find enjoyment in today's video, please feel free to leave it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. But kicking things off with game number 1, Kecleon's going to lead into a Miltank. And I don't really like divulging my coverage move very much, but I go for the Flamethrower because it is what I believe to be better damage per energy. I don't know, it was the more expensive move, I honestly just threw it there. Didn't do a whole lot of research into Kecleon before slapping it on a team because I saw it was a normal type that got Sucker Punch and I was like, ooh, Oranguru counter, cool. Anyway, we're going to bring in our Gallade into a Body Slam from the Miltank. Miltank's Body Slam still does about 30% to our Gallade, and then we are met with probably one of the worst meta matchups for Gallade in Talonflame. However, a close combat is still going to absolutely slap that Talonflame in the face. That close combat gets the Talonflame very low. We're going to fire off a foul play here, and the opponent just said, whatever, I have a bunch of energy, but I don't really care for my Talonflame, so they let their Talonflame go down, but it's because they have another Incinerate user in Typhlosion in the back. And unfortunately, Typhlosion is at 3 Incinerates here, which means they're one off the back-to-back Thunder Punches. I can get an Icy Wind off here, but this is going to be in vain, as even debuff, this Shadow Drifloon is never going to live a Thunder Punch from this Shadow Typhlosion here. So this is GGWP to our opponent in game number 1. Starting things off with a loss, never the best feeling, but we're going to find another trainer with basically the exact same idea as us. They're going to be running Furet on the lead with Sucker Punch as well, and honestly, Furet here doesn't have much in the way of hitting Kecleon. Now they can go for the Brick Break, and that was looking like something much in the way of hitting Kecleon. That damage was absolute insanity. We're just going to build straight up to the close combat. Close combat would do a sizable chunk to the Charjabug, and Charjabug is going to fire off a move on the CMP tie, meaning we're going to be able to get this last second Leaf Blade off, and we grab the shield. That's about a best case scenario for our Gallade there. We've gotten the use out of it, so we're just going to let it go down. And now, back in comes the Kecleon. Kecleon, honestly, I think we're just going to look for the 1 shield farm down here. We're going to leave with a massive amount of energy if we're able to get it. And it's exactly 6 Sucker Punches from them throwing that move. They had just made that next X-Scissor or discharge there. We're going to fire off this Flamethrower onto the Araquanid that comes in, and now we're going to bring in Shadow Drifloon. Now, Araquanid generally prefers to run Bug Buzz, but there's been a trend of them running Water Pulse in the Open Great League, so we kind of have to hope that this isn't one of those guys. We're going to build up well past the Icy Wind, and as soon as that Furet comes in, we need to start applying debuffs onto it. We're going to get the Icy Wind number 1 off on the Furet, and now Icy Wind number 2 is coming for its way. These Sucker Punches, however, not looking very stoppable though. They are going to be able to fire off a move here, but this is guaranteed to be double resisted damage, either a Brick Break or a Dig. The opponent saw that miserable damage and no longer wants to play. GG's. Alright, we've got another nice lead coming for us. Our Kecleon is going to lead into a Cresselia. Cresselia deciding it wants nothing to do with the Kecleon action, seeing the Sucker Punch, and immediately returning into the safe switch of the Licky Licky. Now Licky Licky is going to fire off a Body Slam that does like 50% to my Gallade, dude. Hello? Nevertheless, we're going to fire off that close combat immediately, and we can decide that we can either grab both shields or this entire Licky Licky. with putting up 1 shield here. We're going to fire off 4 Psycho Cuts and the Close Combat for optimal fast move timing. They're going to decide to double shield, bring in Cresselia, but now we're going to bring in Kecleon. And Cresselia here can fire off Moonblast, but Kecleon isn't miserably glassy. It can actually tank that Moonblast pretty well. And now we're already at the back-to-back foul plays here. However, I know this foul play is not going to be enough to KO. So I'm going to overfarm to just when they make their next Moonblast and fire off the next foul play on the CMP tie, as I don't want to tank any more energy there, or give this trainer even a little bit of a way back into this game. Back in comes the Licky Licky, and Licky Licky is looking to fire off a move to get rid of our Kecleon, not quite able to do so. We're going to bring in the Gallade, but we get 1 turn bring in, and that's actually the intended mechanic there, but I didn't account for that. They saw my Gallade switch and caught onto their Talonflame, the Close Combat, but that catch is not going to help them as much as they think it is, because down goes 50% of this trainer's Talonflame here. And honestly, they're at 3 Incinerates. There's 0 reason for me not to shield here. They're going to fire off the fly for absolutely no reason, because they're not going to make another move there. They might as well have just sent the Brave Bird if they had it. But in comes the Licky Licky. We're going to fire off an Icy Wind here. And I was afraid of the Shadow Ball, but they do not have it. GG's to this trainer. Into the next game, Kecleon finds its intended target, but I think these frame drops are not intentional. Jeez, Niantic, come on. I'm going to level with you for a second. Marto Gallade, the recent LAIC International Champion, just came out and told you to fix your game. This wasn't even a problem before. iPhone users didn't experience frame drops. Now, I know I'm complaining and maybe preaching to the choir for some of you that run Android and experience frame drops in your own games, but how do you make the game worse? Anyway, we're going to come in with the Gallade, looking for the Leaf Blade just to KO this Pokemon as quickly as possible. And a resisted Astonish Down would have been too ambitious. We're going to bring in our own Drifblim when we see the opposing Drifblim, and they're going to be able to fire off a move here, but we just need this Astonish Fast Move Pressure, honestly. That is the entirety of the point of the Drifblim switching in. It's going to be a Clodsire in the back, and honestly, this game is looking relatively doable here. We're going to fire off Icy Wind number 1, and that's going to do some solid damage onto the Clodsire, even though we're debuffed. Icy Wind number 2 is reached, and is this going to be enough to put them in a range where our Gallade is going to be able to deal with this Clodsire here? We're going to have to see. Stone Edge will KO. We're going to bring in the Gallade, and Gallade looking for the full farm down of the Clodsire. Not something you see every day. Down goes the Clodsire. Drifblim does not want to play anymore. GG's to this trainer. Alright, spoiler alert, this next lead inspired a future video. I already have a couple battles recorded for Vespiquen in the Retro Cup already. After seeing this particular Pokemon, I'm like, dude, this is a sick idea. I might as well run this. I hate Oranguru, and I'm always weak to Jumpluff. This is so sick. Anyway, speaking of Jumpluff, our coverage move of Flamethrower is going to rock the Vespiquen. A lot of these trainers unfamiliar with the moveset on the Kecleon, and that is playing into our advantage. We're going to bring in the Gallade, looking for a Psycho Cut head start. They're going to bring in their own Shadow Gallade. Oh my goodness, the battle of Shadow Gallade. Gallade is going to fire off the Leaf Blade. They're going to be able to reach a Leaf Blade of their own. Here I'm thinking, okay, well maybe I tank. I mean, it's Shadow on Shadow. I do not tank. Oh my god, that was ambitious for me to even think. They're going to bring in their Diggersby after I show my Drifblim. And this is going to be a Fire Punch, and I have to be very careful where I decide to shield here. Because if I'm left with no shields up against the Gallade, to be completely honest, a Leaf Blade from the Gallade would probably hit harder than a non-debuffed Fire Punch from the Diggersby. So I'm keeping a shield here. I'm going to be able to reach another Icy Wind, but not before this Diggersby is able to fire off another Fire Punch our way. But now it's just doing miserable damage from this Diggersby. Diggersby able to fire off another move here, but they're never going to be able to farm me down. I'm going to commit the shield on the Fire Punch, looking for a catch. I'm very intentionally watching to see if they try to catch onto their Gallade here, making sure that I'm seeing these quick attack animations go through, and they are going to continue to stay in with this Diggersby, meaning Diggersby is going to get KO'd here, and now it's all up to their Gallade to clutch this matchup. I think I made a critical error here I brought in the Kecleon, but that just allows this Gallade to get the perfect overfarm, leaving with the close combat and the Leaf Blade on 1 HP. Perhaps if I had stayed in with the Drifloon to try to get some extra Astonish damage there, that game could have been different. But that player absolutely outplayed me. GG's. Alright, in the next league, we're going to have to stay in here. I can't really safe switch Gallade, although I'll outpace to a Leaf Blade before they make an Aerial Ace. That's never going to pressure a shield, and honestly, I don't really feel like immediately going down shields with Gallade and perpetually being behind on energy. So we're going to stay in with the Kecleon, fire off this Flamethrower. Opponent must have either been expecting a Flamethrower from the Kecleon and they just go on Pokemoves.com for fun. Or they were like, I don't know what the hell is on my screen, it probably has Flamethrower, let me shield this up. Nevertheless, they are going to fire off some energy at our Drifloon. A Frenzy Plant would hit harder, and they do make the correct play of going for the Frenzy Plant, even though Aerial Ace is not resisted. And Frenzy Plant is just such a good move that it's actually the better move to go for there. Bringing in the Gallade to the Dugong safe switch, and they never expect it. Always just send the close combat, boys. The screenshot for the boys. In comes the Feraligatr. Feraligatr going to be forced to shield up this Leaf Blade, as it would very narrowly one-shot, if not just cleanly one-shot. But remember the fun part of us leaving with the Shadow Ball. This game is absolutely over. 2 shield flex, GG's. In the next game, it's going to be Kecleon leading into Shadow Cresselia. Oh my goodness, what a lead for us. They're going to switch out immediately into Jumpluff. This is a non-Shadow Jumpluff, so a Flamethrower isn't going to hit particularly hard here. We're going to no-shield whatever this is, as honestly, it's an Aerial Ace that's even better for us. I was going to say, even if they hit us with the Energy Ball, we're not in fear of getting farmed down for the Cresselia, and that's really what we largely need the Kecleon for, so far from what we've seen in this game. We're going to bring in the Shadow Drifloon into the Jumpluff here. They're going to be able to reach a second Aerial Ace. I no-shielded the first, but no-shielding the second would be very uncomfortable. I'm going to continue to build up. They're going to bring in Auroras, and now a Shadow Ball connecting onto this Auroras would mean devastation for the opposing trainer. And now they're over-farming so much, they got greedy and looked for the farm down Drifloon, making a second Shadow Ball. This trainer absolutely not expecting that to happen. The 5-cycle coming in clutch. Cresselia gets the 1 Shadow Claw farm down. Back in comes the Kecleon, and this trainer top lefts because Kecleon's too good. We've made it to the final game of the video. Kecleon leading into a Dunsparce. Now Dunsparce, probably just an overall better Pokemon than Kecleon, but we are still going to be able to play this out. Don't really want to switch out once again because we have one answer to this. So we're going to play out this matchup, try to potentially soft lose it, and then look to get some energy on our Gallade most likely. They're going to fire off a move. I think I can just barely live another Drill Run here, and I will barely live it. I'm going to be able to reach for another move, looking for that Flamethrower, but decide to tap the Dark Pulse or Foul Play there instead. Not entirely sure why I did that. I'm going to switch into the Gallade, and they switch into their Annihilate. This is so massive. As we get the simultaneous switch, we're always ahead on energy. Annihilate is going to be able to fire off a Rage Fist here, but this is what we have shields for. And now, another hyper-aggressive farm down. Exactly 6 Psycho Cuts. Down goes the Annihilate. And they have 2 shields, but I can guarantee you they will not have 2 shields for very long with a near 100 energy Gallade on the screen. Gallade firing off Leaf Blade number 1 at the Drifloon. Drifloon absolutely terrified at this resisted damage. Another Leaf Blade is going to come through, lands onto the Drifloon. We just bring in our own Drifloon at this point just to get the Astonished fast move pressure onto them. They're going to fire off a move here, but this is perfectly fine. All we have to do here is shield up. I think the guaranteed win con at this point is just going for the Icy Wind. I was a little unsure if they had a move, but I was pretty confident that they didn't. But I also don't know if an Astonish would KO there. This Pokemon, a little bit of a bulky boy, so we're just going to make sure that whatever we bring in will not get KO'd by one rollout. Bring in the Kecleon, and that game is over. GG's. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. And I really did get to enjoy running Kecleon. I haven't busted this Pokemon out in a very long time. I think I built it when it first came out and then never used it again because it was terrible at everything it did. But in the season it does have access to Sucker Punch, which can hit something like an Oranguru or Cresselia for super effective damage, which is very valuable in this cup. However, it's not the Pokemon you really want to be running to counter those Pokemon. Something like a Serperior has a lot of play in this meta, and of course, you can expect a Serperior video coming out very soon. But all that being said, Kecleon, a little bit underwhelming as its stat product doesn't allow it to really thrive. It's not particularly bulky, it's not particularly glassy either, but its pacing and lack of damage output really hinders it. With all that being said, thanks again so much for watching. I've been Shmeaty. I hope to see you guys again next time, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.